Maury.
FAnews is one of the AIE media partners. Part of that means that we have the privilege of speaking to some of the sponsors who is very specifically involved in the sponsorship of making sure that the IISA can allow 40 SMME brokers to attend the conference. This is a yearly exercise, and it's something that Indwe is quite passionate and quite serious about. So today I have the privilege of speaking to Peter Olyott, CEO of Indwe, and we will talk about the upcoming conference, why it's awesome that it at least is happening, although it's not in real life, why Indwe is so serious about the upskilling and upliftment of Black brokers and what you are doing in that space, and then just generally Indwe, how it's going. So, hi Peter.
Hi Leonette, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's obvious to us that if we believe in advice and that advice is good for the customer, and we need more advisors, and we definitely have a dearth of Black advisors in South Africa, not enough.
Yeah.
I think also what a number of people forget is that a large portion of the existing white brokers have started off as one-man bands, SMMEs, and some of them have grown bigger and some of them have stayed the same size. So it's actually an excellent entrepreneurial business line for people to enter into, and we think that the Black guys should also have that same opportunity, to build their own businesses and to employ people, because it's very seldom these days that corporates employ on a large scale. So if we need employment in the country, I think small business is the way to go. And in our particular field, the insurance sector provides that opportunity. From our side, from an Indwe side, and also with my FIA hat on, for a number of years now, we've been looking to develop Black brokers. We've got a business called Apprentice, and in there we've got a number of emerging and developing brokers, as we call them. Indwe has been sponsoring a few on a 3-year basis, where we pay a lot of their costs in the first year and gradually reduce that until they're self-sustaining, and then we change and start supporting some more. But we also provide the business mentoring to these guys, and we help them and we partner with them on certain business so that they can also earn some money to help their brokerages, and we impress upon them the need to educate consumers, because an educated consumer is a good consumer from a broker point of view. They value advice. And I think we're seeing now in probably the last 2 weeks events how important advice will become, particularly because Sasria is not something that many people will have experienced, if at all, in the last 20 years. So it's quite a frightening thought, both for the client and for the brokers and insurers involved, because we haven't been in this space. And if we thought COVID-19 was bad, this has been something else as well. Yeah. So I think from our side, we like to bring the Black brokers into the AIE because it is the premier insurance event of the year. And previously, it's been the domain of the large corporate brokers and one or two sort of better off independent brokers, but largely, the broker force has stayed away just because they can't afford the money or the time to spend attending the conference. So in one way, the virtual conference avoids that, but it still comes at a cost. So we thought it was the right thing to contribute to some of the brokers being able to attend the conference, even if it is in virtual form. And hopefully, when it goes back to being a regular face-to-face, we'll be there as well, supporting them. Because that's really what it's about. You meet people in the industry, lifelong friends. Some of us, we compete against each other, but when we meet at the AIE, it's renewing old friendships. And, for a lot of us, we've been colleagues before we became competitors.
Correct.
So it's always nice to share some old stories with a drink or two. But now we'll have to do it from our studies as we're sitting here. But I think if I look at the makeup of the presenters, it's a good spread of presenters covering a wide range of topics, which should appeal to most people. I'm not saying every single item would be there, but that's the beauty of the virtual conference is you can log in and log out.
Yeah.
That's one thing we've become with virtual is probably a lot more productive. And for us males, multitasking doesn't come naturally, but we've sort of learned how to do it here with one hand on the mouse and changing screens and all that sort of stuff. But I think ultimately I've been to this insurance conference from when I first entered the industry, and my company awarded me a prize for writing some exams, and I could go to the insurance industry conference.
Okay.
I've been going for years, and some years are good, some years are better than others. But I think what we're finding now with this new virtual, it will change the whole concept. I don't think we'll go back to the way it used to be, but that's not a bad thing. I think we start to learn some good things in this year's conference, which we'll carry forward. And I think it's going to be great for younger people to grow up into the industry the same way we did. They won't have quite the same 3.5 days out of the office that we used to have, but still, it's a worthwhile event. For our brokers, our main thing is to make them good brokers so that they can service clients, and we try and move away from this connotation of a black broker. We just say, look, you happen to be black, but we want you to be good brokers. Yes. Why can't you have white clients, green clients, whatever color clients? It shouldn't worry because you're good at what you do. So that's the process we're doing. I was telling you the other day of one of our brokers who's learning to develop his business through seminars he holds on Facebook for his clients. I don't know if you can see it. I'll send it to you.
Yes, I can see.
His name is Lawrence Makwanazi, and he's mainly in the life and financial advice side.
Okay.
He's got a bit of short-term business, and that's what he does. And so I support him in that area as well, because it's good stuff that he's doing. A lot of people that he deals with wouldn't necessarily have access to advice, but he's able to bring it to them. So in small ways, and like we say, if we have, 600 or 700 independent intermediaries and they can employ 2 people each, suddenly we have an extra 1,400 people employed. That's not a lot, but it's better than none. So this whole issue will be bite-sized chunks, and we'll get there. And I think the insurance industry is one of those where we do offer opportunities for entrepreneurs to make a living.
Yeah, 100%. And I love what you guys are doing with the brokers and really getting into their business, not only sponsoring them to go to the conference or have the odd conversation with them, but really getting involved in their businesses. I also recently had a chat with Knox Lamini, who was the winner of the Insurance Apprentice 2018. And based on one of the tasks that they did, the Sazria task, by the way, we had informal business guys there that they had to present to. And it was amazing or shocking to see how many of them had no idea, number one, about Sazria, and number one, about only the basics around insurance. And that made her start her own business. And she also says, the struggle is real in terms of education, because there is not a lot and enough communication and education for these guys out there. But also have these webinars on a small scale that she has for potential clients. And she said she's operating now in the Durban area. And it was quite amazing that she says how many of these clients who she's been talking to for a very long time now suddenly approach her and say, oh my soul, I now understand really what you mean, and let's get the process going. Or I really lost everything. Yeah. Or thank the Pope that I had some insurance thanks to you. So I'm glad to hear. I think one of the questions I ask the people that I talk to is, do you think that brokers, and especially those guys that work with a very uninsured market, do you think they understand the importance of education and the importance of, even if the basic level of insurance? But it feels to me that you really work with the guys that you work with, and that they do get it, and they do understand how critically important consumer education in their specific roles are.
Yeah, I think it's important because you get really successful business people in that emerging space who don't necessarily have the educational background.
Yes. Yeah.
So that they, you've been in business for 10 years and there's never been a riot. It won't be top of mind that something like that could would hit you, or floods or whatever it is. So one of the things that we do as brokers who've been around the block for a while is we've seen a lot of things that happen, and we sell by telling stories. And obviously, if you firsthand witness the story, it's just so much more authentic.
Yes.
And what we try to do with these guys is share the stories with them so that they become their own, so that they too can tell the stories. Because a lot of guys, can't think up an example of how to explain fidelity guarantee insurance or legal liability insurance. But if you tell them stories, then they can obviously do that. So in our job or interaction with the markets, we've been face-to-face with stokvels, for instance, explaining concepts of insurance. And I tell you what, those gogos that sat in the front that do all the food and that at the funerals and weddings, they're a lot sharper than what we think.
Oh, really?
So I spent a day with them. It was a stokvel from Soweto, and I came back learning a hell of a lot.
Really, I'm sure.
So it was an amazing experience, and I think very good from a traditional insurance provider to actually understand that market, because it's a different market to the ones that we deal with.
That's fantastic.
And I think the whole coming together of the established brokers and the new guys that are coming is vitally important.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, how can you help your competitors? I don't think we are. I think the market's big enough for all of us.
100%.
And they're also going to be able to get to clients that we will never get to.
100%.
So there's no real competition there. We must help them. What we do try to do is just, teach the guys that, your first account doesn't have to be a big state-owned enterprise.
Yeah.
You can go for small, medium-sized business and personal business. And that way it takes you a bit longer to make your millions, but you have a much more sustainable business.
Fantastic. It's fantastic, Peter. I don't know why I haven't chatted to you a long time ago. I really didn't know about all these fantastic things that you guys are busy doing. So well done to Indwe for all that you do behind the scenes. Any conference topics that stands out for you?
My personal favorites are the technology ones, just because I have an interest, and it is, technology is coming. It's changing the way that we do business, and COVID-19 has sort of accelerated us into the future a lot quicker than we thought we were. So stuff that we were planning for 2025, we ended up doing in 2020.
Yeah.
So, when you don't have much choice, it's amazing how quickly you can make decisions and change your business, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
I've been watching the digitization of insurance products with some interest and some amusement. The amusing part is that we digitize products which are 40 years old rather than redesigning. way. I suppose that's as someone said, why break it if it ain't broke? But I think there's scope for new product development, definitely, and digitization will speed that process up. And lots of people think, well, that's the demise of intermediaries. I disagree, because I think if intermediaries embrace technology, we can do a better job of advising. And we will be under pressure as well as the product providers to reduce the cost of distribution. So if we want to stay relevant, that's part of the things we have to look at.
Yeah.
And I think for the emerging guys that are coming through, the benefit they have is they won't have the legacy of what we had.
Yes.
Once you've built your business in a certain way, you're a bit prejudiced in doing it any other way.
100%.
But if you started with nothing and you said, let me build a business today, you would probably build it a lot differently to what the businesses look like today. So they have that advantage.
Yes.
And I think, that's where we come in, is to help them use that to their advantage.
You make me think.
I'm excited.
Yeah, you make me think of that question, advice to your younger self. And that's exactly that,
it is. I mean, being an advisor today, if you look at the complexity of risk that businesses face, I can't see how they can do it without an advisor.
Yeah.
That's like doing all your contracts without a lawyer, or doing all your books without an accountant.
Yeah.
Do it yourself, which is all right for 90% of the time. But it's that 10% where you need that independent advice when that risk is big, and it happens. Then you find yourself up the creek without a paddle. So I'm a great believer that, provided that intermediaries stay in touch with what's happening, they'll always be relevant.
100%.
So I think it's exciting times for us. Pace of change is fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been in the industry for a while as well, and I would say the pace in the last 5 years has just outstripped anything that I've experienced in the 30 odd years before that.
I agree with you. I do. Peter, there's a few days left for people to register for the conference. It's on 2 and 3 August. Yeah. Why should they?
I think because you get such a broad understanding of what our business is about. These days it's so diversified from the early days when I started as a youngster in insurance, an apprentice. It was just mainly insurance guys, and you just landed in the job because the first company that offered you a job, and so you learned to stamp and issue policies. And these days, the industry creates really exciting employment for anything from actuaries to technology guys to lawyers to insurance people to risk managers. And so it's almost like a world in one. Where it doesn't matter what your interests are, you can find a home in our industry. And that's probably the conference agenda as well, because you'll see the diversity of topics will appeal to all sorts of people.
Yeah.
And so that's the exciting part. You get for 2 days now an opportunity to learn things which might take you 3 or 4 years if you had to do it on your own. And what I like about it is if you listen to particularly good topics, you can then engage with the speakers after the conference, or you can research the subject if it tickles your fancy. And I've done that a lot in my own career. So when I've listened to something and it's sparked something in me, I've gone about it and then I've said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And large part of that is evident in some of the businesses I've built over the years. So that's what I would recommend. And you meet some great people. It's unfortunate that it's going to be virtual. Because nothing beats like having a drink or a cup of coffee.
Oh, for sure.
Conference.
For sure.
And we're not talking about the golf.
all the many balls we lose. Yeah, Peter, it was
Yes.
great to chat to you. Yeah, let's hold all 20 thumbs that next year we'll be back to a real life conference, at least for those who like to do it. So it was fantastic to chat to you. It was great to learn a little bit more about Indwe and the fantastic work that you guys are doing. So yeah, let's catch up soon.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Violet.
Peter.
Keep well.